Let's continue with number 12. On number 12, again, we're not doing anything we haven't already done in Unit 18, but we're going to be doing it now. That includes 0 as an exponent and negatives. So let's see. On this one, if I'd seen this one in the previous section, I would have said, well, that -5 has to go on both pieces, on the 2 and on the -5. Unfortunately, they're both in the wrong spot, aren't they? So I'm going to move them both down. Because there's nothing left in the numerator, I'm going to put a 1 in there as a placeholder. So now I've got 2 to the 5th, and that is going to become m to the 5th power. I can clean that up a little bit. The 2 to the 5th power is going to become a 32 when you do the arithmetic off in the margin. For time's sake on my videos, I'll go ahead and do the arithmetic for you, but you're really good at it and you'll have plenty of time to do it on your own on the exam. -2 on number 13, -2 to the 5th power, or to the -5 power, and then m to the -5 power. Let's see, that's going to mean that they both need to be moved down again, doesn't it? So I'm going to get both of them moved. That's a -2 to the 5th, and I'm sorry, I put the parentheses on the wrong spot there, didn't I? Let me just start that one over. I don't want to confuse anybody. Okay, so I'm going to raise each one of those to the -5 power first. It's -2 to the -5 and m to the -5. And immediately I notice, hey, negative exponents means they're in the wrong spot. Make yourself a fraction if it's not already one and move them. That's going to be a -2 to the 5th power, and that's going to be an m to the 5th power. Placeholder of 1. Once I clean them up, I'm going to get a -32 when you do the arithmetic in the margin. And again, stop the video if you need time to do that. M to the 5th. Let's continue with number 14. I'm going to raise each one of those to the -3 power. 2 to the -3, a to the -3, 5 to the -3, and then move everything. They're all in the wrong spot, aren't they? There is another little trick, but I'm not going to show you because I don't want to give you different options at this point. If you kind of figure something out, you're welcome to use it. Otherwise, we're going to continue to do this. Okay, I'm going to move everything because that 2 to the -3 is going to become a 2 to the 3rd on the bottom. The a to the -3 is going to become an a to the 3rd on the bottom. And 5 to the -3 is going to become 5 to the +3 on the top. And I can clean it up. That's going to be 5 to the 3rd, which is 125. 2 to the 3rd, which is 8, and 8 to the 3rd. All right, on number 15, we're going to do our rules. I am multiplying two expressions together, so I'm going to multiply the like pieces together. I've got 2 times 3, which is 6. I've got this x to the -1, x to the 2nd power. Hey, that is a like base rule, which means I add the exponents. What is -1 plus 2? X to the 1. Then we do the very same thing with the y's. I've got a y to the 4 and a y to the -6, which means we're going to multiply like bases together, so you add the exponents. 4 plus a -6 is going to be y to the -2. See, exactly the same. We're not adding new rules or anything. We're just following what we already know. Now we can clean that up a little bit. I know I'm going to have to make it into a fraction because that y to the -2 is in the wrong spot. So we're going to end up with 6x, and that would become a y squared on the bottom. Number 16, same thing. Let's do it again. We're going to multiply -2 times 5 is going to be -10. When I multiply the a to the -3 times the a squared, I'm going to add the exponents because I'm multiplying like bases together, and I'm going to get a to the negative 1. Looks like I'm going to move him in just a little bit. Then I have the b's. I have a b to the negative 2 and a b to the negative 3. When I multiply like bases, I add the exponents. What is negative 2 plus negative 3? Negative 5. We're going to end up moving him too. And then we have the c's. C times c squared. Okay, well, c is actually c to the 1 power, isn't it? They both have positive exponents, so all I have to do is add them. Like bases, we add the exponents. And we would be finished except for the fact that we have a couple of negative exponents, so that a to the negative 1 and that b to the negative 5 are going to be moved down. Everybody else is fine. The negative 10, the c to the 3rd, they're fine. But that a to the negative 1 is going to become an a to the 1 on the bottom. And that b to the negative 5 is going to become a b to the 5 on the bottom. Let's do number 17. On number 17, negative 21 divided by positive 14, that reduces to a negative 3/2. Then we have a w on the top and 3 w's on the bottom. Well, I'm going to subtract and keep them wherever the larger one is. So 3 minus 1 is going to give me a w to the 2nd on the bottom. I have 8 z's on the top. I have 1 z on the bottom. I'm going to subtract this quotient rule, 8 minus 1. And since the larger one was on the top, we're going to get z to the 7th on the top. Let's do that again on number 18. 45 over 35. And again, stop the video if you need time to reduce those on your own. It's going to reduce to 9 over 7. Now, on this one, you have a couple of options, but I'm going to continue to use the same rule. Which one is larger? A negative 2 or a negative 4? Think about them on the number line. Now, the further to the left, the smaller the number is, right? So this negative 2 is actually bigger than the negative 4. So I can subtract them that way and it'll work. But sometimes when the students are cleaning these up, if they're both negative, it's easier to go ahead and move them if you feel more comfortable. I'm going to go ahead and have you move the x to the negative 2 down. He's going to become an x squared. I'm going to move the x to the negative 4 up to the top. That's going to give me x to the 4th. I'm actually going to move the y to the negative 2 down because I've already started doing that with the x's. That y to the negative 2 is going to become a y squared. This is the other option that you have if you don't like negative exponents when you're reducing. You can move them all ahead of time and make them all positive and then clean it up. The 9 over 7 stays the same. The x's make a quotient rule, so you're going to subtract the exponents. The larger one is on the top. So the x squared stays on the top. And the y's actually end up being like bases, don't they? Y to the 1 times y to the 2nd is y to the 3rd. And that's it. Now, number 19, our last one, we're going to get to clean up the inside first. Deal with the exponent. Negative 12 over 6 is negative 2. I've got x squared over x to the 3rd. I use my quotient rule, x squared over x to the 3rd, subtract, keep it where the larger one is. So I've got an x to the 1 on the bottom. Do the same thing with the y's. A y over y to the 3rd, subtract. 3 minus 1 is 2. There were more y's on the bottom, so they're going to stay on the bottom. And then finally, z squared over z. Z to the 2 over z to the 1. I'm going to subtract the exponents and keep it where the larger one was. And then our last step is going to be to raise everything to the 3rd power. We have negative 2 to the 3rd. We have z to the 3rd, x to the 3rd, and y squared to the 3rd. So we're going to end up with a negative 8, a z to the 3rd, an x to the third, and a y to the, that's a power rule, 6. Next section.